The biggest contender to win the split for me is Fnatic.
Origin, H2K, Fnatic, straight up. They're giants compared to everyone else.
The two contenders is H2K and Fnatic. Fnatic is obviously gonna be the front runner.
And then there's like us and Giants, maybe like Gambit. Actually, I think we are in a good enough spot. We are slowly improving with some shaky moments sometimes.
Honestly, going into the split, I thought Roccat would impress me, but that's just the Roccat from scrims, I suppose. And on stage, I was really sad to see them just not being able to perform, because they absolutely smashed us in scrims. Like, wow.
De momento la tabla baja era como esperaba. También es verdad que va a cambiar mucho porque a ser Bo1 no veo ningún equipo que no tenga posibilidades, que está a un nivel muy abajo.
Even though SK was like 0 or something, they actually won last 2 games.
I feel like right now we're starting to gain more confidence, show the way we want to play the game. It's just dynamic, so you can't really say what's gonna happen next.
Here in Berlin, Germany, as we near the final stretch of the summer split. As you can see, everybody's very excited to be here in our studio. The sun has actually come out, which is good for our fans who were waiting outside just a couple of minutes ago. There's Pyra and Quickshot making some new friends, bonding with the fans that are visiting the studio here today before the show. They're the Copenhagen Wolves entering the studio with a lot of swag, might I add, looking for, well, a victory for them in this one. Same goes for Roccat there, Mr. Rawls, his second week with the team, and we'll see what they can do. I'm Ifje Sjoggesepoortere here on the analyst desk with Challenger Series shoutcaster James Stress O'Leary and Mitch Kreppel-Voorspoels to take a closer look at the league, sporting that, well, mini Monty look.
Whoa, 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 whoa. We're like Monty 2.0. All
right, well,
Mitch, please.
Well, we'll leave that in the middle. We'll leave that in the middle. We do got to talk about the standings, though, because we're seeing some clear divisions there at the top of the table. Fnatic is still #1. They are undefeated, 8 straight wins, and they could actually tie their own streak record later here today. H2K in second, Origin right behind that, and then a lot of middle-of-the-table teams, and we are starting to see some very clear divisions when it comes to the table.
Yeah, big divide. It's kind of 3 and then 7 with a big stack down at the bottom at 2 and 6 when it comes to how the teams are spread out. And honestly, there are a lot of factors that go into that, but it just, right now, Origin, H2K, Fnatic looking so much stronger than all of the other teams in the league.
Yeah, we actually went on a bit of a quest to find out what separates these 3 teams from the bottom 7, and we nailed it down to 3 bullet points, pretty much. The first one, and that's the most important one in my opinion, is that you need to have 3 carries, so a triple threat composition. Yes, I know every team has a top laner, mid laner, and AD carry, but they need to be able to carry the game on their own merit. They need to stand out, and especially in the likes of H2K, you see that with Oduan in the top lane, and then Hjarnan in the bot lane doing a lot of damage, and then Ryu having a bit of that utility role, so it's nicely evenly spread. In addition to that, you need to have your jungler and your support work together. A lot of these teams, they don't really use them together, but if you look at the top teams like Fnatic, you always see Reignover and Yellowstar move together for that map control, for those wards, for that vision. And then in addition to that, you have the good shot calling. All these teams have shown really good macro level play. Origin, perhaps not so much because they steamroll their opponents usually. And that mix together makes for a quality top tier team. And I feel like all these lower tier teams are lacking at least one of those.
Yeah, that's really interesting that you bring that up, and it's not always the same thing for every team. I mean, for Unicorns, it's pretty much the shot calling. They end up kind of taking these weird fights. For Gambit, it's that synergy isn't always quite there. So each team has unique things to work on, but you can start to place them within these 3 categories if you kind of try and generalize quite a bit.
Yeah, we'll start and track through today what these teams are showing, but you've heard what these guys think, but we want to know from you as well. So tweet at LL Esports and let us know, what do you think makes a top tier team and why? As said, you know the drill, tweet at LL Esports and use that hashtag LCS, and we'll talk over your answers here later today. Now, we have 5 games on the slate. We're going to start off the day with Roccat versus the Copenhagen Wolves. We also have the Unicorns of Love versus Giants, and of course, our game of the week, as you can see there, after Origin versus Gambit, it's Fnatic versus H2K, which is going to be a great matchup. 4th game of the day, but a lot of matchups all around. And as said, the spotlight has been on Fnatic since the spring split. We're going to take a look at their opponents now, though, H2K with the Fisho.
Thank you very much, Shucks. Yeah, I'm going to take a look at H2K and what they do so well, because currently they're sitting as number 2 in the European LCS. They might have a chance to beat Fnatic later today and take that number 1 spot. Let's start all the way back at the early game for H2K, because that's where they really, really shine. We get to see how they are the team with the highest average gold lead throughout the early to mid game. If we then look at like what do they do so well, we start noticing a difference in standard lanes and lane swaps for H2K. We're just going to swap it up a little bit. You see the top one is lane swaps. They're outperforming themselves in terms of the standard lanes, and nobody can beat them when they do swap up to that top lane in the 2v1s. I have a clip highlighting what H2K does so well. One of the things is the ability to pre-plan your plays. So just before we started, you could notice how the bot lane here, the jungler and top laner, Odoamne and Lulex, they started all the way down here at their own red buff. Then they move all the way up to the top lane, skipping their own blue buff. This is what goes wrong for Giants, because they're timing the jungle clear, saying, okay, they're going to do red, they're going to do blue, so we know if we move top lane, we're going to make it to the tower, we're fine. But H2K, they're one step ahead. They skip that buff, they get up to the top lane and start zoning away the 3 members from Giants away from the tower. We can just roll the clip, and we get to see how Giants are now stuck between 2 towers. They can never really do anything, and all H2K wants to do now is deny farm from Whirlip and also take down that top tower a lot faster than Atri down in this bottom lane here can do on his own. They even get a kill for it because Godfred, he overextends, he ends up going down. They get the tower. Now this is the first play, 3 minutes, and then we go a little bit, further into the early game. 6 minutes, 43 seconds. Now, this is H2K saying, we know there might be a problem with a Vayne who's been getting solo XP down the bottom lane. She's level 6, it can be annoying. Also, Whirlip is freezing the wave up here in the top lane. So H2K said, okay, how do we deal with this? We go down to the bot lane and we just dive it 5 members. Notice the setup here. Odoamne is sitting ready for teleport. Bot lane is being pushed in by Yanin and, of course, Kesing. So if we just roll the clip, we can see how they're calling down everyone. Lulex is coming, Ryu is roaming from the mid lane, and Atri here in level 6 Vayne can't do anything. Beautiful outplay from Kesing. And all of this here from H2K is them being one step ahead of Giants, and suddenly we see 7 minutes in once to get the kill. 1,500 goal lead already for them. No towers going down. Giants are already a step behind. And it's very interesting if you then follow H2K further in the game and you see how they really snowball that lead, because it's not through dragons, it's not through barons, no, it's towers. They keep getting all these towers down. It creates a massive goal lead they use to then snowball the game. If you compare that to like Fnatic, you can see Fnatic has 13 barons to only 6 of H2K, because Fnatic rely more on getting that objective to close out the game. H2K, it's taking all your towers, and then as Crepo highlighted on the analyst desk, it's the triple threat composition where you have Odoamne, Ryu, and Yanin as the main damage dealers. We just see here compared to the average of the league. Notice how we have Odoamne and Yanin further or pretty far ahead compared to the standard top and AD carry. But then Ryu, of course, he's the sacrifice here. He's going down in terms of overall damage, but it's still 3 carries. And the reason Ryu is down in damage, it's because he's sacrificing himself for the enemy carries. I mean, notice here how he's just chasing Candy Panda. He pops another gold card. He doesn't use it on anyone. He only wants Candy Panda. He wants to trade his own life for one of the carries of SK Gaming. Flashes over the wall. Difficult position for him to be in, but he gets the kill. And now he knows that Odoamne and Yanin has enough damage to clean up the rest of the fight. And this is how H2K keep playing. So if they get a lane swap against Fnatic, we might see a similar game for H2K where they try to snowball from the early game. But we'll, of course, talk more about that later in the day. For now, it's about the first match. We're going to hear what Freeze has to say about this change Roccat made down the bottom lane, because he doesn't think it's going to work out so well.
Rallis is a passive AD carry, and normally passive AD carry is really good in aggressive teams because that will be the backbone of the team, and he will step up when he needs to. But if you bring a passive AD carry into already passive team, then I'm not sure if it was upgrade or if it was downgrade, because Woolite was actually playing aggressive. Yeah, sure, he was throwing games, but he was one of the few that actually tried to do something in the team. So I'm really not sure if it's the upgrade or downgrade.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Trevor Quickshow Henry, and the man sitting next to me is the one and only Mitch Crepo Forceballs, as Roccat and the Copenhagen Wolves are setting up on stage for our first match of the day. Let's jump straight into it by taking a look at Rockat's lineup with, of course, Steve up in the top lane, Jankos, Nuktak, Rals, Vanda, and as the crowd is yelling as well, Yamato Cannon is the coach. Look, this is a team that has been extremely passive early game. They've got the lowest kill activity in the last 2 weeks. Take a look at these numbers. 0-1-0.
On average.
On average in their first 15 minutes.
That's half a death.
in one game on average last week. So that means nothing is happening. And if you compare it to week 3, the stats were a lot more active. So Rockat's on the decline. And Free said it, if you put a passive AD carry in a passive team, well, things might get very passive.
Well, they definitely do. The other problem for Roccat, not only are they very passive, they've got pretty poor decision-making. We keep seeing them making incorrect plays. Here, for example, Nukeduck gets
So this looks like a standard out play, but Nukeduck pathway from the river back into the mid lane, and Fox just saw him coming and said, well, I'm just going to straight up kill you. And here we see Steve engaging. That's nice and all, but look over in the bottom lane in your minimap. Mr. Rawless is farming with a Triforce BF Corki Power Spike. And Roccat donates a 4 against 5 against Elements. They pick up first blood, latest in the league so far. So passive early game, then a monumental screw up, and yeah, if you get those, you're going to fall behind.
And we'll need to see whether or not Roccat can fix the problems that they have coming into the week, because they're facing off against the Copenhagen Wolves, who are coming in with a roster swap. It is Youngbuck in the top lane, a new old jungler, if I may. Shook is in the jungle, Soren, Freeze, Unlimited, and their coach Dentist. Let's talk about Shook a little later. Let's highlight Youngbuck at the moment, because he's, of course, coming into this game, and we talked about lane swaps, we talk about strength of these triple carry threats, and Youngbuck is not making the best TPs.
See, it's Youngbuck's TPs, but for me, this is a problem for the entire roster of the Wolves. Right there, anybody could have told Youngbuck to TP sooner, and he could have stayed freeze, and that snare he did on Yarn, that could have been 1 kill into 2 kills, and Youngbuck could have started getting rolling against H2K's phenomenal early game here as well. He just started teleporting in, but if we go back 6 seconds ago, Huni would have already landed his teleport in this fight last week. So 2 occasions where the play was telegraphed, where it was set up, where all the information was available to the Copenhagen Wolves, and whatever shot caller they have or whoever was in charge of the teleports, they didn't happen. They went too late, and they made it even worse.
There's 3 tenets of a top-tier team, one of them being shot calling. We'll see if both of these teams can fix the problems they have, but for the Wolves, it extends further. They also demonstrate a lack of understanding in lane swaps. One of the only teams that consistently freezes lanes, and it keeps pushing them further and further behind.
Yeah, if you look at here, average 1.4k gold down at 10 minutes in a lane swap, where usually you see very mirrored scenarios. They're messing something up along the way, and this ties into the poor teleports. If we saw last week the way H2K just simply dismantled them, have their resources better spread around the map. So hopefully this was a working point for the Wolves, who have their coach back now on stage as well, so they can just remember that, guys, okay, let's play it standard, let's follow the meta, let's not deviate too much, not too many freezes, because honestly, so far for the Wolves, they haven't been working out.
No, it really hasn't. The Wolves, however, have made a roster swap. As we did say, Shook coming in to replace Airwax in the jungle. And of course, Shook has actually played with the Copenhagen Wolves a long time ago, to be fair. And we'll need to see whether his impact can help the team out. Maybe some of the shot calling, if Shook can get a good enough start, maybe push them in the right direction. So for both of these teams, it's a matter of trying to find some form and climb their way closer to the top of the table. Because, Crapper, we talked about, there's a top 3 and there's a bottom 7. And at the moment, both of these teams are quite low down that bottom 7.
But if I remember the standings correctly, the difference between 4th place and 10th place is only 2 wins. So anything can still happen in the bottom table of the league. And you only need to get top 6 for playoffs. But to touch on that Shook point a little bit, he never struck me as a shot calling type, but when he's in his element and not in elements, he actually plays quite well if he gets some momentum, because he has fantastic mechanics, like the things he's shown in scrims on the Lee Sin and the likes of more aggressive junglers. This could open up the early game for the Copenhagen Wolves, because in standard lanes, they're honestly not that bad. Go back to last week where they played Fnatic. Youngbuck neutralized Huni in the top lane, even CS, Vladimir into Lulu. Freeze was actually beating Yellowstar and Reckless, or Freeze and Unlimited rather, because there's 2 people in that bot lane. So it went kind of even for the Copenhagen Wolves, but then that one teleport, that one team play, if I may, kind of ruined it all, and they got put behind.
And we'll find out whether or not Roccat will have fixed up their early game weaknesses, and whether or not Shook is going to have a bigger impact. We are into picks and bans here. Draven taken away from Freeze again. No real big surprise. Shen, Lee Sin, and Jace. So the Gragas is still up, prioritizing the Lee Sin against Jankos over the likes of Gragas and Rek'Sai.
Yeah, and the Wolves did their homework, because they saw last week that Roccat, when the junglers were pincered, when the junglers were pressured, then Jankos reserved to Lee Sin first pick. So they do this preemptively, so in case Roccat starts threatening junglers right now, Wolves have the option to ban out the second one, and if not, they trade evenly tier 1 for tier 1, which is honestly a good trade. Other than that, the first ban that really catches my eye here is Shen for Roccat. They really don't want to play that again, because I think Steve lost the matchup Shen into Gnar against Freddy last week too. Or Gnar into Shen, whichever it was. Freddy came on top in both sides of the matchup, so... And this obviously leaves Kalista open, and when Kalista is open, you pick Kalista. Or
first
Sivir,
pick.
depending on who you are.
That's definitely the case. Sivir also available here. Mr. Rolls ran Sivir last week. It didn't work out. He went 1-5-2. Gonna try his hands on Kalista this time around. And we'll see whether or not Roccat can play around that. We know Alistair is up. It appears to be locked in for the Wolves. And a lot of top laners actually still available. However, Youngbuck not had the most success with anything that wasn't either Vladimir or Shen.
Copenhagen Wolves banning out their own Azir to pick up the early Cassiopeia, saying, okay, well, Nukeduck and Soren, we have similar champion pools. We don't think the counter pick is as big of a value. We'd rather secure a comfortable champion. Obviously, Nukeduck did well last week. Or no, that was actually Fox. That was the mirror matchup. Nukeduck was manhandled by Cassiopeia last week. That's why the Wolves take a page out of that book. And we see the Alistair, and I wonder if Copenhagen Wolves are actually going to play Sivir, because traditionally Sivir is such a poor matchup into Kalista. However, they're so far up tier 1 right now that you almost have to pick that bad matchup because she brings so much utility for your team.
Well, I'm excited to see Soren back on Cassiopeia. It was one of the champions he carried with in spring very often, made a name for himself. Not played it yet in summer. A lot of picks have come in very rapidly. Gragas, Echo, Rek'Sai, Sivir.
Yeah, let's go over them really quick and explain why they came out. Initially, Roccat picks up Gragas. That immediately tells the Wolves, well, we get Rek'Sai, even trade. Gragas, however, is really good at body slam flash engaging on these immobile mid laners like Cassiopeia, so I like the pick up. I like Echo as well with a lot of chaos and mobility. Roccat are playing an early skirmish comp, which indicates that they're no longer playing passive in the early game, hopefully.
Yeah, the champions don't want to be played passively, but we'll see whether Roccat feel the same as actual players. But they're up against the Sivir's wave clear and grouping with Alistair and Rek'Sai.
Yeah, Copenhagen Wolves want to hit the mid game as even as possible. Group up, press R, try and get an objective tied out of that. I want to see how Roccat fill out their composition. If that Echo is going mid or top. I imagine it's going top. It seems like a bit of a rough matchup against the Cassio if you eat one of the poisons.
We do see Varus now locked in. So, Nukeduck most likely going to run that Varus mid. With Kalista as the AD carry, they've got the peel and the disengage from Janna and Gragas to round it out. So a little bit of slowdown from that mid lane.
Not sure on the Janna. I see why, because she can keep Kalista alive in these fights. And a movement speed utility. It's a disengage component. Maybe to keep the Rek'Sai away. And yeah, they know that the Wolves tend to go for like these tanky engage champions on Youngbuck. So there I can definitely see the merit or the value of a Janna pick. Reminds me a bit of a TIP, the way they play a lot of carries, and then you have their support player on the Janna just for disengage over in the NA LCS. But I like both drafts so far. Rockat's going for this triple damage bet with a bit of a pokey mid laner in Varus, and then Copenhagen Wolves look to run out maybe a pretty older type of style, a double tank composition with a tanky support like Alistair, and only 2 threats. That's very important to watch.
So we'll see whether or not Copenhagen Wolves' 2 threats can actually work. That Maokai was locked in. Youngbuck's most played champion in summer. And for Roccat, this is a completely different team composition that we're seeing. We'll have to see if they can execute it.
Yeah, as the game progresses, the goal for Roccat what they want to do, and what you want to do in any triple threat composition is you want to trade one of your carries for a carry on the other team. Because if you take down the Cassiopeia and you just pound her and you just immediately destroy her, and you maybe sacrifice your Echo in the process, then suddenly you're playing the rest of the match with 2 threats against 1, and then Freeze is under so much pressure. So that's definitely the angle Roccat want to take. However, they have to get through that defensive line. Rek'Sai, Maokai, Alistar, a lot of peel.
And a lot of peel indeed for the Copenhagen Wolves. We'll see how they handle themselves. Both of these teams 2 and 6 in the bottom half of the table. A lot of pressure on their shoulders.
Yeah, and an interesting thing for people watching at home right now, we ran the stats. When Roccat gets ahead at 10 minutes by like 200, 300 gold, they end up losing. If they get behind, however, just ever so slightly, a couple hundred gold, they win the game. So if there are any Roccat fans in the crowd, cheer for your team to be ever so slightly behind at the 10-minute mark.
It's statistical anomaly.
Stats don't lie.
On the side of Roccat, but it does fit into their play style of very passive early, very passive mid. They've got a slightly different flavor of team composition with this Kalista, with this Gragas, and very importantly with the Echo, because Steve is going to be getting his hands on this champion, and we need to see how he's handled himself. Struggled a little bit in summer, but it's fair to say he's been focused quite heavily as well. So we are loading up onto the Rift for game number 9 here for Roccat and the Copenhagen Wolves. Hit us up on Twitter at LOL Esports. Will Roccat or Copenhagen Wolves pick up their 3rd victory in the first half of the split?
Yeah, hashtag ROC win, hashtag CW win. Steve. Steve indeed, he's facing that Maokai. And that's what I want to see. how efficient is Maokai still in the current meta over in Europe? Because its win rate is deep below the 50% mark. Obviously, that doesn't tell the entire story, because it is a champion that usually top laners go to when they're a little uncomfortable. It's the staple pick that always works, so people with a Xiao champion pool are more likely to end up playing Maokai. Then the likes of Huni, then all those carry top like W5D1, they don't have to resort to that champion anymore, not so much.
60% pick ban rate, Crepo. 10 bans, as you mentioned, 5 wins, 9 losses. YoungBuck, this will be the 4th time that he's playing the champion in their 9 respective games.
He's going for that rank 5 mastery. That's something you can do. If you get that rank 5 mastery, you unlock a new emote, Control 6. And then you can taunt your enemies when you stand on their corpse and say you just got beaten by a master tree. But not quite yet there.
Not quite. And we'll need to see if he's logged the hours. YoungBuck, of course, going to be trying to put on a show. Copenhagen Wolves had a little bit of difficulties this week. And my eyes are going to be on Shook, for sure. We've not seen him in several months. Got his hands on Rek'Sai, has the theoretical ability to try and maybe punish this Varus.
Ooh, interesting. They're going for the stop. So Janicalista not doing the double golems. Alright, this indicates that they want to see if they can use their double range advantage to punish. Unlimited to freeze as hard as they can. Let's see if they actually end up pushing this lane too much. Very interesting laning phase, because Alistar Sivir get massively outranged. There's no engage potential yet. And you want the lane to push back, so you want to eat auto attacks to aggro the creeps right there. That's what a limited wants to do. He wants those creeps to attack the Janna, so his creeps attack the enemy creeps, and then the lane auto pushes. So in the future, you lose as little as you can, and yeah, obviously starting heal on Alistar, so it'll take until level 3 before he has that combo.
Oh, a lot of safety then for Roccat, as we do see Nukeduck trading with Soren in the middle lane, burning through his mana to get the Hail of Arrows down.
Now let's take a look. This lane is obviously going to slowly push in the bottom lane, so we don't have to watch that anymore. A lot of trading possible in the mid lane if Soren connects that poison. If he misses, however, he can get punished really hard by Nukeduck. Nukeduck usually stays back a little bit in his lanes, doesn't put the most pressure.
And last week, Nukeduck looked really out of sorts. Played a lot of Azir, ended up losing a matchup to Cassia as he was playing Victor, if memory serves. Just there was so much expectation on Nukeduck's shoulders, and all year long, he's not really found his groove. Let's see if this Varus works in his favor.
Tremor Sense. Super standard pathing from both junglers, and I was about to make the point that neither team knew where the enemy jungler started. Well, in retrospect now, obviously they do. The fight for the Scuttle Crab.
Oh, Jankos on this Gragas does have his double buffs picked up. Shook has left that blue buff.
But Soren's pushing, so Shook can actually aggressively invade. That's the staple. If your mid lane is pushing, then the jungler can invade.
Well, let's see. Jankos, he gets caught out, knocked up now by Shook, is on the retreat. Has got a pretty good KDA versus the season average. He's going to defend that, as he just needs to body slam away.
This is a good read from Shook, because he knows the pathing Jankos took. He knows that Jankos' camps on the right side are still down. So the only possibility for Jankos to still get experience in his jungle is to do that wolf camp. Shook just waits there to see if he moves out or not. And he always has Soren the ability to move first. So Soren can always get there first. So a good move, puts Jankos on the back foot. And that shuts down a lot of his aggression in the early game.
So let's see if Jankos can find his rhythm again. Also, one of the most touted junglers that's not finding real good footing. We just caught a brief glimpse there of Steve and YoungBuck trading back and forth, as Unlimited's burned through almost his entire mana pool already. Spell shield for freeze, but yeah, even CS in the
more
top
minions.
lane, even middle, even bottom, but look at Mr. Rolls and, as you mentioned, wave pushing towards them as well.
Yeah, and this is how these sustain situations pan out. Initially, you will get roughly even CS, but you still have the wave control advantages on Rolls' side. He can push his back if he wants, or he can put the freeze on freeze and make Unlimited run out of mana. And once he drops below that 150 mana mark, and he has to expend heals, he can no longer safely engage. So he doesn't have mana for Pulverize and Headbutt at the moment, so he only has one of them. That limits the gank potential for the Wolves, which makes it then again easier for Roccat to poke rather, because they're not on a threat, which in turn makes Unlimited make him use his heal more. So it's a bit of a snowball effect. So Alistar definitely wants to stay above that 150 mana mark.
So small advantages here for Roccat. Everything's slowly but surely moving into their favor. We touched on how Roccat are traditionally down in lane swaps. They weren't forced into that scenario.
The Wolves are down.
Seem to be in their ways, and we'll need to see how the Wolves can handle themselves. Let's be fair, both of these teams are down in most scenarios when you're 2 and 6.
That's true. Statistically speaking.
Exactly.
And this win's very important for either team because it allows them to catch up, and they all have that number 4 position in mind. Neither of these teams want to challenge the top 3 just yet, but they want to get as close to that 4th place position as they can. However, while Roccat is being passive, their Echo is even farming CS in the top lane, and that's good. If Steve can scale, get some CDR, get some damage, get that Morellonomicon, he can look to really assassinate the likes of Sivir and Cassiopeia in these fights and then just Chrono Break back out.
A lot of pressure on Steve's shoulders. We've got a lot of fan support since he's joined the league, but we've not necessarily seen him carry all too much. Vander and Mr. Rawls, they've caught Freeze out. Spell Shield will stop. Summon a heal used, and Freeze gets away alive.
Really like that Tornado from Vander because it telegraphs the entire situation. Freeze will have to Spell Shield it. However, Nukedog's getting roamed on.
Oh, he's going to flash away from the Petrifying Gaze, but he can't get away from the knockup. The poison in the fangs, and first blood to Soren.
Fantastic gang by Shook there. He knows even if Nukedog flashes out, he can just flash knockup right after. Soren doing the right thing. Connecting ulti is all he needed. Not a stun, just a slows enough. But Jankos for the return gank.
This is the reply. Young Buck's going to get caught out. Keaton barrel. Steve's going in. There goes the body slam, and this should be an easy kill. Steve secures it.
Little cool trick by Jankos. Usually when you approach a Maokai and use your offensive ability, he'll try to dodge it with Twisted Advance. Jankos walks in and out. He says, okay, Young Buck, just use your Twisted Advance. And then he body slams from out of the cast range of Twisted Advance. So then Young Buck has a harder time to dodge that damage, can't close the distance, and eventually good gank, because this is important. Really important to snowball that Echo. Because Cassiopeia is the least mobile member in Copenhagen Wolves. No flash right now, so they can return gank her later. Jankos still has his flash, so body slam flash into ulti later can shut down and make that even for Roccat. A lot of possibilities still.
So 1-to-1 in kills, Crepo. We did see Shook in his first game of summer back on the LCS stage, helping out Soren, one of the players who's also needed to step up for the Wolves. Freeze has put on solid performances most of the split. And Soren, again, a little bit hit and miss. Maybe this extra assistance early on can help him carry on one of his signature champions.
A couple item disparities in the bot lane. BF sorted into Pickaxe right now, even though the CS is roughly even. However, Freeze survived long enough to almost at level 6. This is what they need. They just want to go even. And then they can start grouping up for that dragon. So I really wonder if any of these teams are going to use their teleports. Neither Steve or Youngbuck have been excellent at making plays with teleports. Often they TP in and it's so telegraphed that the enemy just walks away. They seem a little hesitant on using them. Both are up though. So a lot of potential plays in here.
Time is ticking for it to actually happen. We do see Jankos with his ultimate available and that flash you mentioned. He's been hanging out in this pink
but they know he's there.
Bush ward.
They're pinging him right now because he passed that pink ward on his right. That's crucial. And now Soren will have to do his best application for an Oscar because he wants to keep Jankos there as long as he can while still playing as if he doesn't know for sure that Jankos is there. He wants to step up forward and say, okay, Jankos, you can gank me. Oh, no, I just happened to walk backwards a little bit. Giving away his time. Jankos is still in that brush. Top lanes are trading.
Well, they are going back and forth. Steve working towards that Morellonomicon. And we see Youngbuck, the makings of that Catalyst that protects her. They're continuing to trade. Steve is going to throw out the Time Wander. Youngbuck forced to flash away. Steve is looking for more. He's got the phase dive and Youngbuck's low. Flash forward. Time Wander comes back for the stylish finish.
Cool guys, don't look at exploding Maokais. He walks away fully on style. And here we go in the middle lane.
And Soren's acting gig has not paid off. Gagas comes in, but he does not land the body slam. Knocks away Soren. Jankos should be able to finish this off. One more barrel slap as Shook actually replies onto Steve up top. Another 1-for-1, but it was Youngbuck that adds a kill credit to Roccat.
Oh, that looked almost ugly. Jankos tried to do the body slam flash, but he hit a minion that was very close to him, so it didn't carry over that damage. And here we see how Shook came in the top lane and finished the kill. Steve, you got the kill. Take it and leave. Don't stay around. Shook says thank you very much. He stops the speed up, takes him down.
So well played by Shook, 1-0-1. And we see Roccat with a kill advantage. They've secured 3 times as many kills than they have in the previous week.
Trevor, they're slightly up at the 10-minute mark.
Oh, that's not a good sign if you're a Roccat fan.
History tends to repeat itself. Let's see if it does indeed. Let's see if Spelzy, our stat guy, is actually right in his approach.
So just to remind everybody, in the games that Roccat have played, when they're slightly ahead at 10 minutes, they actually end up losing, and when they're slightly behind, they end up winning. We'll see if this pays off. We did catch a brief glimpse of Nukeduck and his Goro build with those 4 weapons. Steve and Jankos turn their attention onto Youngbuck. He's going to throw down that Vengeful Maelstrom, but I think it's just a matter of time before he gets caught out. Body Slam connects. Time Winder once more, and Steve's 3-1.
If you get caught once, the amount of slows and speed ups on the Echo Gragas is just too big. Barrel slows, Echo speeds himself up, Body Slam to catch up. Copenhagen Wolves, they sacrifice a tree, they gain himself a dragon.
It's a fair trade, if you ask me. For the Copenhagen Wolves, they've only secured 3 first dragons out of the previous 8 games, so that's a decent enough start for them.
Yeah, and they don't really go over that first dragon too much either. Only 1.25 dragons
per game.
Average. It's not a whole lot of dragons.
Well, it's definitely not, but to be fair, there's only been 1 5-dragon buck here in Europe this split. It's not really been a key to victory for the European teams. It's the towers and the gold that tends to weigh more on our squads.
Yeah, now the Wolves, they got the dragon, but not by grouping up, not using that Sivir ulti to their advantage.
Wait, that one is a bit of a miss. Howling Gale doesn't connect either. Chain of Corruption must be the most missed skill shot. That doesn't connect either in. Comedy of errors in the middle lane as nobody lands anything.
See, I played a solo queue game earlier today. I don't play too much solo queue, and I must say I sympathize with these fine gentlemen. I know how it feels to miss your skill shot and have everybody watch you if you're a bad player. But life goes on. Miss skill shots on either side. Nobody dies. Just a little hurt in their pride. But these are sturdy gentlemen. They'll recover from this.
They will, and they will try again once more in the not too distant future. Jankos is making it very clear where his priority is this game. This is what, the 4th gank in the top lane.
Like the wise philosopher Dr. Jat Leesman once said, if you at first you don't succeed, try again, and looks like Jankos is trying again.
Jankos is in trouble. Youngbuck is going to be going down once again. Time Winder comes back. This time doesn't secure the kill. It's not over yet. It's down in the bottom lane. Boomerang Blade comes up. Mr. Rolls is trying to hop, to skip, to jump. He's going to get the Monsoon for safety. Time Winder for Peel. Steve decides to go back in. He bursts down Soren, but it's not enough. The barrel will send Soren home. Jankos picks up the kill, trading 1 for 1.
Yeah, both junglers instrumental in this game. 4 out of 5 kills for Jankos. 100% kill participation for Shook, so they got a tier 1 jungler and they're making it work, and this is why Rek'Sai and Gragas have been such staple picks so far. Now Shook's looking to assassinate Nukeduck. It's a little much to do on your own. But Roccat, they take a tower in the mid lane. Couple kills in advantage. They're slowly getting this advantage on the Wolves, and honestly they should start grouping with Sivir somewhere. Make a play, make a group play, because they're getting out-skirmished, especially in the top lane.
So advantages to Roccat, a tower, a bunch of kills, successful ganks. Roccat are looking like the team that every other LCS squad thought they were. And we'll need to see how Copenhagen Wolves can slowly start to recover. Let's also be fair, Copenhagen Wolves have had some difficulties this week and a substitution. So they're also trying to find some rhythm with their new 5th man.
But they're not changing it up. When Youngbuck gets ganked once and dies, twice and dies, 3 times and dies, I feel like he should start using his teleport to go into these other lanes, make a play. Every time we see Copenhagen Wolves make a play on the Kalista, and she barely survives because of the Janna reset. Imagine if they have a deep ward right there. Youngbuck can teleport on. He's Soren.
Well, let's see. Soren gets knocked back into the Chain of Corruption. Hail of Arrows comes down, a couple more shots, and Nukeduck gets the kill in the blue buff.
Deja vu.
Not going to secure a kill. Jankos is really stepping up this game.
But the Wolves are falling for the same tricks over and over and over again. Soren gets hit, Youngbuck gets hit, and it's a repeat scenario, and they're not learning from their mistakes.
So let's see how Roccat can continue to press their advantage. 15 minutes gone, 2,000 gold lead, and Nukeduck and Vander chunking down an inner mid turret. While Mr. Riles has been left uncontested in that bottom lane, he's built himself up a healthy CS lead. Everything's looking solid here for Roccat as they set themselves up for a strong mid game.
Roccat definitely poised to take more advantage of this map. Wonder what's next. Ideally, they should open up another tier 1 tower right now. That's what they want to get, but still pretty healthy. Go over on my screen on the bottom. However, bottom towers, half HP. Top tower, half HP. I lied, they're not healthy. Want to see Roccat put a couple of members on one of these side lanes, push out mid, rotate, put the pressure on, and secure these tier 1 towers. Stop going for kills unless they're attached to another tower.
So let's see if Copenhagen Wolves can bounce themselves back. They do have the ability to group with Sivir. Infinity Edge now picked up as well. A lot of peel and protection if they can make a decision, if they can move around the map. We've not seen teleport plays come in from either of these top laners yet. They've been content to just pick on Youngbuck and keep chopping down trees.
And Steve is definitely content scaling because Roccat right now, they have their biggest lead they've ever had in this split at the 15-16 minute mark. So definitely feeling happy. It's easier to play with a lead. Just gives you so much more opportunities, a lot more pressure on the map, and we've seen when you back the Wolves into a corner, they become quite predictable. Teams with decent shot calling will exploit that predictability and make that lead even larger.
And talking about that biggest gold lead, Crepo, when Roccat have played standard 2v2 lanes, which has been 5 of their 8 games, they're actually usually down 2,000 gold by 20 minutes. They've turned that around before 17. And Jankos has set his sights on this bottom lane tower. We saw how much damage had been secured. There's vision to play with.
Yeah, triple pink ward backed up with 3 green wards in front of it. Jankos is controlling the tempo of this game. They're aware of each other's positions, but they don't care. They just want that tower. Look at the mid lane as well. Nuktak is keeping Soren down in the mid lane. He can roam at any point, quicker than Soren can. I would like to see him do that.
So let's find out. Tower's going low. Jankos is hanging out on the side. We do see the engage from Unlimited. Shook is trying to come in. He has a teleport from Steve. He's pulled the trigger first, I believe. He's rocked up. We do see Youngbuck arriving. They're about the same time. That's a knock away from the explosive cast. Copenhagen Wolves are in retreat. Steve, Rolls are chasing them down. Nuktak may be able to solo Soren. He does. Now Shook is throwing out those Prey Seekers, but it's simply not enough. Roccat get 2 kills and a tower.
And again, Youngbuck TPs later than his opponent, even though Copenhagen Wolves were the ones under pressure.
So, congratulations to Roccat, extending that gold lead even further. They now get onto the Dragon and set themselves up for the most impressive early game we've seen from them all summer long.
And at the same time, the Wolves, not much has changed. Let's look at the gold real quick right here. Who has all those monies? Nuktak in the lead, 7.1k. You see how he's passive. He's, full 1.2k ahead of his lane opponent. And they're playing a triple threat composition, which is big because they've confidently shown that they can trade evenly, threat for threat, even if not stay alive. And that makes it so hard for the Wolves because all their damage just runs out eventually.
Yeah, we'll see whether or not Wolves can position appropriately with the Sivir or not. Because the fact of the matter is, the Wolves are not doing a whole lot. They're playing a little closer to Roccat's style that we've seen from the previous weeks. And for Steve, I think this is a good position to be in. Almost got that Lich Bane completed.
Yeah, let's talk items for a moment. You're a top lane Echo player. You want to learn Echo Part 1, which is Steve, and then want to transition to Echo Part 70 million, which is Huni. Still the build you want to do. CDR, AP Mage Assassin, go in, and then ulti out.
Well, Youngbuck is being focused down. Roccat have started this one. It's a 3v3 before Nuktak has arrived. Chrono Break gets the burn down onto Youngbuck as the phased eyes throws him onto Unlimited. We did see that Chain of Corruption thrown out from Nuktak to add to the mix. 2 kills and another tower.
And the best part about Chrono Break is that it resets tower aggro, so it facilitates dives, and if you fight for 2 or 3 seconds, then eventually you will go back to your ghost. But if you're in the same place, that's right where your ghost is, and you do massive AoE damage. Steve picks up another kill, and the Wolves, they all say hashtag keep howling, but they will need a lot of howling back into this game.
6,000 gold down, 4 towers down. Soren wants Rolls. Rolls has not left this lane.
He knows he's around, but just doesn't know where.
Is anything gonna happen?
You feel tension.
That's
palpable.
That's why I'm stopping.
Are you adding dramatic?
Yeah. Well, that was anticlimactic. I'm not gonna lie.
Shook taking down a Grump.
So I have to talk a little bit about Roccat's comp. With the amount of vision they have in this top lane, the obvious objective is going to be that inner turret. They seem to be prioritizing that.
Or just vision.
If at any point do they set their sights on Baron?
I mean, if you're a little hesitant in your approach and you don't have a clear tank that can survive the Baron long enough, which actually Roccat do in Gragas, what you can do is just ward up the enemy jungle and contest the neutral objectives, the buffs, and then to a second extent the Raptors and the Wolves. Smite away their Wolves, which gives removes the fact they can obviously not smite it themselves, so they don't get that little ghost patrolling the area. Smite away their Raptors, kill the Raptors so they don't get that free Oracle buff to clear the vision, and then slowly push them in back into their base, and then they have to be afraid to face check everything, and then you can go for a Baron. The mistake a lot of teams make is they feel like the 2 wards around Baron are enough, but when you play against a team on purple side, they can easily sneak in a ward, stop your Baron attempt, and kill the temple, so it's better to spend a little more time setting it up and executing it cleanly, rather than trying like 4 times in a row and failing.
Of course, with that Callista, you're always going to have that Ren safety to play with. Teleport will be available for Steve shortly.
Yeah.
We do see Mr. Raz land a couple of shots. Roccat has secured 7 Barons to the Wolves 3. So a little bit more priority on that objective. They've got themselves a super solid lead, and it's Soren that's left to defend against Steve's split push.
So we're 21 minutes into the game. Copenhagen Wolves haven't grouped a single time with their Sivir, because Roccat is pressuring them in the side lane. Steve is always drawing somebody there. We see Rallis moving to the top lane. He doesn't want to group in mid lane. He doesn't want to facilitate that group. Roccat want to go for the 1-3-1, warding between and make pickoffs.
Well, let's find out. Jankos does throw down the explosive cast. Freeze is most likely going to pick this kill up. We do see him continuing to chase with on the hunt. Jankos still alive. He gets a shield. Still alive. Monsoon will keep him alive for a few seconds longer. Enough to get the 280 carries of Roccat into the fight. They've now traded 1 for 1. We see Unlimited being chased away by those Ren stacks, and Shook was caught up. It looks like he's going to get run down as well. Copenhagen Wolves get 1, lose 2, and Unlimited will follow suit. Who's going to get the kill credit? Mr. Ralls
no one
not going to land the shot. Double flashes. They really want the triple, and they get it.
Yeah, very poor target prioritization from Copenhagen Wolves. They could have killed Ralls here.
Wow, look at that damage. Petrifying Gaze doesn't stun. Steve jumps in. The Archangels is going to keep at least Soren alive a few seconds longer. But Roccat now set up onto the tower.
Yeah, and the Copenhagen Wolves, they focus down the tank. This allows Roccat to buy enough time for Rallis to just keep hitting people over and over. Nobody was hitting him. Twisted Advance did not connect on the Callista. Here's Super Shook coming back in.
And we do see Steve. He's going to chrono break to safety, split up the threats. Copenhagen Wolves looking for something and not going to find it. Roccat have now been able to regroup. The teleport and Void Rush was used for absolutely nothing. Young Buck's tree has been focused so heavily. 0-6-2.
They're not looking too great, and 10 deaths are on 2 people on the Wolves, and that's big. Look at it. They find Jankos, which is alright. So why use your combo here if you're Alistar? Just get Rallis. Somebody just get Rallis. And look, Jankos doesn't have anything left. You can go to Rallis right now. Just focus him. Twisted Event. No, that's the wrong target. And then Rallis is still untouched, hitting people over and over again, and then once he gets that Rend execute, nobody's going to kill him anymore. So the Wolves had their window right there. I feel like they missed it a bit. They should have grouped earlier. You see how easy it is to catch people off guard when they get lulled into this false sense of security because of the gold lead. Which is why Sivir is such a potent pick. Definitely first pick worthy, in my opinion.
If you group, if you don't group and you don't use the power, you find yourself 10,000 gold down. And with all the wave clearing threat that Sivir has, no towers secured yet for the Copenhagen Wolves. Ooh, yeah. Soren between a rock and a hard place. Luckily no vision. So Dragon number 2 will be secured here for Roccat.
Looking at Steve, he's now picking up some magic resistance, which means it's... What Echo wants to do is dive in and survive for a decent amount of time. As long as you can't stun lock him down, it's usually not wise enough to focus him, because he always has chrono break, which makes it so hard to deal with a top lane Echo that has a mild lead on you, because you kind of want to focus him because he's hitting you, but you know it'll be wasted damage, wasted cooldowns if he presses ultimate. Speaking of ultimates, he has freeze.
Well, let's see. They are going to try focus Steve. He's going to chrono break backwards and jumps onto Soren. Not going to be enough for the kill, but that was a whole lot of damage. The rest of Roccat did set themselves up towards Baron, but they didn't start it. And that's Steve getting caught out.
That's what you have to do. Group up, press R, and pray that you get a kill, and that Rockat's not ready for it. Steve overextending, disrespecting the Sivir ulti. He's getting closer to his second item, whereas Wallace is a full QSS ahead. He has Runan's BT and QSS. He'll be hard to kill. Steve is hard to kill. Nukeduck has massive range, so he's easy to kill if you get to him. But getting to him is rough. And then you have double disengage with Dragon's Barrel with Janna. And this is why it's so hard to play against these. Yeah, as we say, keep saying over and over and over again. Triple threat with disengage. If they get ahead, then it's hard to play against them. If you get ahead against them, then it's obviously easy to run them down because they all fall down so easily because they're so squishy. So TLDR, win your early game.
Win lane, win game.
Win lane, win game.
Not always the case for Roccat, but today they're proving they can buck the trend. And when they are facing a team that is also struggling, they at least seem to be playing very confidently. The toughest task lies ahead, cracking the inhibitor turrets and clearing out the base. Little difficult against Cassio Silva, but with the amount of poke and wave clear and even dive.
I think in true Roccat fashion, and to an extent also in true Copenhagen Wolves fashion, this game will slowly inch forward, and eventually Roccat will pick it up, and then Copenhagen Wolves will crawl into their base, defend, hold on as long as they can. So eventually they run out of oxygen. And they get suffocated by the pressure from Roccat. When are they going to get this Baron? It's not a matter of if, more a matter of when, in my opinion. So I want to see how they use their vision control. Their one upgraded Oracles on Vander right here, that Talisman of Ascension to outrun the Sivir. They can just control the waves, control the vision, then move back to the Baron.
It's interesting to see the Talisman Ascension of both Janna and Alistar. Item's gaining a lot of popularity in the last couple of weeks.
Very meta.
Since it has changed, it gives you a little extra gold, longer range, a little more regen.
Mobility is key in a lot of these team compositions. Here we go, Shook gets poked out.
He's gonna flash over the wall, gets away from the explosive cast, but flash used. So we know those flash knockups not gonna be available for several minutes, meaning Nukeduck a little safer on that back line. One less threat for the next team fight.
They need to get rid of that pink ward right there. If they can get that out, push Copenhagen Wolves into their base and then disappear into the darkness without allowing them to put any more wards near the Baron pit, then they can facilitate that bait. Here's a Limited.
So let's see, Unlimited throws down the Unbreakable Wall. He too flashes away.
Next.
Roccat playing the waiting game effectively and continuing to get summoner spells.
Now they don't have to do it super cleanly rather because they have the Kalista Ren to execute the Baron.
So let's keep an eye on those stacks. Shook.
Oh, he knows.
Gonna move around. He knows full well this is happening, especially because he's just put a ward down. Teleports for both Steve and Youngbuck. Look at them in the bottom of your mini-map. 3,000 hit points on Baron. Here's the TP from Youngbuck. He'll arrive a second lower. Secured by the Ren, but this might get messy as Roccat are retreating. Chain of Corruption is going to try lock Copenhagen Wolves together as Jankos is taken out. Vander and Ralls, they're retreating. They're hopping backwards, but Youngbuck is staying alive and staying true. Freeze gets a kill, gets a double. Roccat lose 4 for the Baron, and I'm not sure that was worth.
Yeah, me neither, Trev. Yeah, Roccat start the Baron, but they give enough time for the Copenhagen Wolves to come up with a plan. They place a ward. The ward doesn't get swept, so you can still TP on it. And in that fight, Limited 500.
18th player to do so in Europe, Crepo.
Yeah, 500 assists. Great mark. And this, yeah, makes the game interesting. We see the power here if the Wolves can group and distract Roccat a bit, and if they're not in a good position to make their disengage efficient. I see Jankos as well. Let's watch it again. Jankos watches HP. So we're focusing. Shook goes for the steal, but now Youngbuck is actually first. And we see Unlimited going with the zone, 2-man combo. So that forces the flash from Rawless. And now Youngbuck's in the middle of them, so they have to run away, even though he flashed backwards. Okay. A little questionable flash here, but Freeze is alive and he's untouched, and then Unlimited comes in with the CC. A little questionable flash from Youngbuck there in my opinion, but it worked out, so hashtag work. But the Wolves are still 7,000 gold down.
And this may be the first tower of the game. It will be the first tower of the game if Freeze can hit it. Decides to play safe instead. Rawls is going to defend. 30 minutes on the clock, and Copenhagen Wolves have yet to take an outer turret down. But that gold lead is now becoming slightly... Come on, Freeze. There we go, 30 minutes on the clock. Still, 7,000 gold.
And Nukeduck is the only one with Baron Keep's buff left, so if you want to keep him alive and pushing.
And we're on the steps of the Copenhagen Wolves base. Roccat trying to set themselves up. Throwing out some of that poke. Nukeduck will have those Baron-powered minions for at least another minute or so. It seems like
See
they
a
want to
flank
use it.
here from Youngbuck. No teleport. If you run straight at Roccat, it's going to be hard to get them because Jankos is disengaged and Monsoon is so easy to use if everybody's just charging at you. Stand a little bit behind your carries and then flash Monsoon in. Look at the tower crumble. We need a flank. Somebody needs to get to the side, threaten the flank from Roccat and force them back, or at least make their position a little more awkwardly. But nobody opts to do so.
Look at that tower getting chunked down. That Baron-empowered siege minion.
No flashes on Wolves. This is vital. If Roccat are tracking these, they know they have the safety to move up. The Wolves become so predictable in their approach.
Well,
Here we go.
do see Unlimited's trying to get in, has used the Ancient Coin on the Hunt popped as well. And they don't connect. Look at the damage from that piercing arrow. Nuke Duck is melting the Copenhagen Wolves hit points bars.
The lack of flashes is really what's separating these fights from being good for the Wolves or bad for the Wolves, because Unlimited, you saw it, he wanted to go in, but he knew if he tries to go for that combo, he will just eat a tornado, get Monsooned out, and fight resets and tower will go down. He's down to 30% right now.
That's going to be the tower secured. The base is cracked open. Roccat, look at that. Soren simply cannot take those hits. No flash either, so the Petrifying Gaze engage is not available. Unlimited's looking to get an assist on the board. We talked about it. He just broke 500. He's actually at 502. And we'll see whether or not he can get any more. Crepo, if he gets 18 more assists, he'll beat your record, buddy. 520.
Yeah, but, you know, some assists are just more valuable than others.
They would be.
In this metagame where everybody groups up, it's so easy to get assists.
Oh.
Back in my day,
You had to earn those assists.
I had to work hard for them.
So Roccat are working hard for every kill and assist they've earned this game.
Not like I played in the meta game where all we did was group up and fight, but forget about that one. Let's focus on this game, Trevor.
I don't remember those days. 40-minute
do.
games, do nothing for 20 and then play?
Beautiful strategy.
It was. It wasn't particularly effective from what I remember.
Yeah, man, we won a lot of games at one point before I dwelled in the deep darkness of obscurity.
That's not
continents.
That's not fair. That's not fair. You're not obscure in that top. We do see Soren's caught out. Chain of Corruption goes out. He manages to petrify Vander in position, but it's not going to be enough. Steve gets a kill as Unlimited is trying to hunt those assists. All he'll do is give his own life. And the Copenhagen Wolves lose 2 more in a tower. This is a trend that has happened for each of the previous towers, and it looks like Roccat will be setting themselves up for another inhibitor objective.
Yeah, Alistar Morgulis, you're behind. All cows must die. That's your fate. You go in, you tank as much as you can. Eventually, your team runs away, and then you're the lone support. Stuck into 5 angry Roccat members, and they will kill you and take your inhibitor.
And they do. Second inhibitor down. Roccat again with a strong advantage. Going to back off, spend some of their hard-earned gold. Every single member over 1,300 gold, 2,500 on Mr. Ralls. And remember, that was a first pick Kalista. That is 5-1. And he's showing he has mastered the champion in this team composition.
Yeah, and I like the builds coming out of Roccat as well, because they're running like 3 carries. They don't need to spec into like heavy damage. We see on both AD carries in the mid lane and the bot lane, we see a double Bloodthirster here for the Varus and the Kalista. And that makes it a lot easier to stay alive in these fights. And because they don't have to rely on just their damage to carry these fights, because they have a 3rd carry coming in the AP Echo in the top lane. They can spec a little more defensively, get that QSS, and then Vander, of course, his role is just keeping his carries alive. So all he buys is CDR, move speed, and then the Mikiel's Crucible for additional cleanse. So good itemization by Roccat. Obviously easy if you're ahead, because it makes them ever so more efficient.
The thing is, though, when you look at the gameplay, Roccat earned this lead through repeated ganks, actively pushing towers, efficiently grouping. And those are traits that we had not associated with this team in summer. And maybe even not in spring. We see Jankos is going to get caught out, but Soren's used his ultimate just for Jankos. Now the disruption from the explosive cask is 1 kill for Wolves, but what will it cost them? So far it's a top lane as Steve is going to go forward and chrono break backwards. Nukeduck gets himself a support as well.
And Jankos is just so tanky. He can buy enough time even if he face checks. He traded that face check for Cassiopeia ultimate, which is massive, because in the scope of the team fight, that's 1 big key ultimate down for the Wolves, and they have to settle for a 1-for-2 trade, and they're losing their 3rd inhibitor right here.
Desperation plays from the Copenhagen Wolves. They lose another tower. Freeze loses 30% of his hit points from one poke from Nuke Duck. And Steve and the rest of Roccat secure an inhibitor. They're looking to go forward. Freeze will get rendered, but he stays alive. Might make it back to the steps. Spell shields up to stay alive a few seconds longer, and Rolls continues to throw out those hurricane-empowered auto attacks. Super minions in all 3 lanes, double super minions for a little while. That mid inhibitor will respawn very soon, but 36 minutes, and Roccat have got the makings of a strong victory.
A lot of free farm here for Copenhagen Wolves. Always look on the bright side of life. That life doesn't seem to last that long anymore as Rocket's setting up for another Baron.
Oh, Baron number 2. I feel this one's not going to cost them 4 lives. Well, I can still be proven wrong. Copenhagen Wolves move forward before realizing they had too many minions to deal with. And
that's one of the changes I like so much about the new Baron. It's so gives you so much satisfaction when you base in double speed, only 4 seconds to get to the base, because it just rewards people to, okay, take the Baron, then base, buy your items all together. Not one guy going like, hey guys, I need 200 gold for my needlessly large rod. No, just all get the base, get that mini home guard, start pushing again, and close out the damn game.
So there we go, Roccat barreling down this middle lane. Very, very impressed with their decision making. Very impressed with how they've handled themselves in at least this particular matchup.
I'll say medium impressed, but definitely an improvement.
That's for sure.
They capitalized on the mistakes that the Wolves left them, and I think that's definitely a good change for Jankos in particular, because he's been getting gradually more active.
Well, let's find out. Look at the disengage from that piercing arrow.
Yeah, no flank.
Talisman, and also Flash is not available for Copenhagen Wolves once again.
Yeah, if you don't flank, Janna will just make your life so miserable with those tornadoes, those monsoons. It's so hard to flank when you're down 3 hits. Soren!
He gets caught out. Petrifying Gaze connects with nobody as Mr. Rolls gets himself another. Parallel Convergence stuns up the Copenhagen Wolves, and Freeze gets frozen out of this game. Unlimited will get dropped as the super minions are on the Nexus turret. Young Buck and Shook are running for their lives. Roccat set their sights on the Nexus turrets, take them down, focus the Nexus, and Roccat pick up their 3rd win in summer. So Rolls is a tall boy, and he put on a tall performance that game.
Yeah, but the man on the right there, Jankos, I feel he really carried his game on his shoulders. They took out his Lee Sin, but then they left open the Gragas. Not sure if I like that approach. Yes, they trade tier 1 junglers, but it seems that Jankos could do so much more with that pick. Repetitive ganks on Young Buck, repetitive ganks on Soren, and while Shook had a decent early game, to give that early counter jungling was good. He put enough pressure, he got counter kills, but every time he got a kill somewhere, Roccat died on the other side, the Wolves died on the other side, so he couldn't really leave his mark. A solid performance nonetheless from Shook.
Yeah, got himself first blood as well. First game back on the stage, first game back with an old organization. So for Copenhagen Wolves, some of the mistakes were quite similar, being down at 20 minutes in standard lanes, etc. Shot calling once again. 3 carries. In this game, they went to 2 carries and didn't make use of the Sivir.
I mean, you could play a Maokai. Just because we go on about this triple threat composition, that doesn't mean you can't play a Maokai. Just use your strengths, right? If he's an engaged tank that zones enemies, just group up with your Sivir, speed him up. People can't ignore him if he's charging at you at 200 miles an hour and then latches on to, you know, one of your carries. And this is not Young Buck's fault. This is not anybody's fault. This is whoever has the shot calling job in Copenhagen Wolves. And yeah, just not connecting the pieces of the puzzle. They're not grouping up. They're not playing to their strengths. While Roccat did, they kept the map open, 1-3-1, split push, didn't allow the Wolves to group, and eventually came out on top.
Yeah, definitely. Got themselves 2 Barons, got themselves 3 Dragons, only conceded 1 Dragon. That is, again, against all of the norms that we've seen from Roccat. They had gold leads. I just really think as a team, they showed that in this game, they were making the right objective calls. And that's not something I've thought about Roccat actually most of the year. In spring, a lot of Rockat's games dragged out really, really long, really, really late. You feel they lost a lot of the time. Against Elements last week, same thing. They didn't do anything against Elements and let Elements scale. Today,
they made good engages. They had finally had really solid engages with the right idea behind them. So they engaged the right targets. They didn't get caught off too many times. Like Steve got caught maybe on the bot lane once with the Sivir. But that's normal. That's bound to happen eventually. And more importantly, I just wonder, can Roccat repeat this against teams that push back a little more, that have more forward thinking, more steps planned ahead, play more to their compositions.
Well, talking about the composition, I mean, this was completely different from Roccat. They ran that Echo top. Gragas made it through. This is the first time we've seen Nukeduck there on the Varus in the mid lane.
Good
and
champion priority too. First rotation, Kalista, and then Gragas as the tier 1 jungler of their choice, and it worked out because we know Soren picked up that Cassiopeia early, and I like it. Just punish it with body slam flashing to knockback, make it so hard for her to land that ulti reliably, and then yeah, both team comps honestly were fine. Nobody got outdrafted, just people got outplayed.
It's quite interesting as well if you look at those team comps. You kind of feel like on the Roccat side, it's a little bit more new age, dare I say, with that Echo top, with the Varus mid, and for Copenhagen Wolves, it's a little bit more spring, early year, with that very tanky top laner. Malco was one of the most contested picks in spring. Didn't work out for Youngbuck and the team today.
Yeah, definitely delayed meta a little bit, but both obviously work. You can play anything with a Sivir, in my opinion. You just need to use her well. And we harp on it all and all, but that's what this game boils down to. As the game progresses more in terms of like macro level strategy, there are just correct ways to do things. And yes, you could take a page out of the cheese book or just do things a little differently, but if you're still struggling with the fundamentals, with the basics, then this is where the Wolves have to look. Identify your composition, play to its strengths. More importantly, identify your opponent's composition, because that's what I feel Roccat did this game. They said, okay, this is a Sivir comp. They want to group, don't let them group.
And they never did. Roccat steamroll. They go 3-6 for the first half of the summer split. We're going to head over to the analyst desk where they're joined by Rockat's new AD carry.
Thank you very much, Quickshot. Yeah, we're joined here by Mr. Rawls. First off, welcome back to the LCS and welcome to the desk.
Thank you.
Yeah, very good to see you again. And, well, a very good game from you guys' side in this one. Actually, this is the biggest lead you guys had at 15 minutes and at 20 minutes for Roccat, then the entire split. What was different in this game as opposed to all the slower ones before?
Well, I think we're really good at snowballing, and we just got really OP picks, so yeah, I don't know. We just got the best picks for every lane, and it's obviously we go ahead then.
Yeah, I was going to say, you guys got the first pick, Kalista. We've seen Corki and Sivir from you in the LCS. I saw you a lot of Corki in the Challenger Series qualifiers. Kalista being first pick available in this game seemed like such a big factor. How comfortable were you kind of sitting on your own as that Kalista with the rest of your team doing things on the map?
Well, since it's first time with Kalista, I was a little bit shaky because the Q was pretty hard to do on stage because I'm not too comfortable yet. But yeah, I don't know. Like Kalista is a champion that I practiced the most since I left LCS last year, and yeah, I don't know. I just played Corki and Sivir because Kalista was banned in Challenger Series.
Yeah. Well, in this one, it definitely seems that you could put a little bit more of your mark on the game, where maybe last week you may have been a little bit nervous. How do you think your playstyle fits within Roccat?
Well, I think all I need is consistency because the other players is really, really good. So I just need to farm up and do something in team fights, and so it should be fine.
Doing something is always good. Final question maybe about Roccat in general. You come in there as a new force, and there's been a lot of talk from other players as well. They're so good in scrims, but it's not translating. Did you notice that at all when you came into the team? You noticed that big difference and maybe why it didn't translate to the stage until now?
Well, I definitely realized why everyone is saying Roccat is so good at scrims, because yeah, we beat most teams. But yeah, I think the biggest problem is that in scrims we get a lot of easy kills, and when we come onto the stage we won't get those easy kills. And then we sometimes, in scrims, we just fight for no reason instead of playing the comp as we should. And then once we get on the stage, we can't just fight randomly because we're not ahead. And yeah, that's the biggest difference.
Well, it definitely seemed to have played out very good in this one. Congratulations. Your first victory with Roccat for Mr. Rawls. We're only one game in, but there's plenty of more LCS left to play. In a few minutes, the Unicorns of Love will take on Giants Gaming in a fight for 4th place, so stay with us.
You make me tilt. Every time I play against a team, I'm like, what logo would make them tilt the most? I have CLG, Kaboom, Legends BR, Pain Gaming, and Keyed.
It's a 3v3 before Nukeduck has arrived. Chrono Break gets the burn down onto Youngbuck as the phase dive throws him onto Unlimited.
Kalista. W in 3, W in 2. Janna.
I'm on Janna. Nice.
Parallel Convergence stuns up the Copenhagen Wolves, and Freeze gets frozen out of this game. Unlimited will get dropped as the Super Minions are on the Nexus turret. Roccat pick up their 3rd win in summer.